Thank you.
So do we need to start all over for the recording then, or do we just pick up from where we left off?
I think it'd be helpful.
Yeah.
Maybe Charles could do a quick review and summarize it, and then keep moving.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
since we are recording now, just going to take a quick review. We did get quorum to start the meeting, and we did had a quick review of the agenda, and a motion was moved to pass the agenda, and the votes were all ayes. We also did the approval of the minutes from January 11, 2022. A motion was then done to accept the minutes, and the votes were all aye, and so the minute was adopted. After that, we just took a quick review of the public input, if there were any contribution or any questions that were received by the public. We did not find any. We did acknowledge or recognize Jim Wagan in the meeting, and he was here just to observe. That's what he said. And so the next item we had was the change in March board meeting to virtual. We all voted and agreed to move that to virtual for the month of March. And on item 5.2, which we just finished, was a review of the two item library board policies. One was for the board job description. That was mainly changed by just typos, adjusting a couple of the typos. And if you have the copy, it's in red. And I noticed that. I was going to ask that question. I saw anything that was in red. The county board, the board, and maybe a comma thing that was mentioned here. And the other item that was for review on the board policy was ethics for board members. And this was just reviewed against the state policies to be consistent with them. So I think that was the second one. And we are now going into asking for a motion to approve the library board policy adjustments for both A and B items.
I have one question, just informational question.
Yep.
Right now, we stand at 5 members of the board.
Right.
Is that, how is that number determined? I know it's set by the legislature, but I was wondering if all library boards have the same size, are the same size regardless on the size of the area covered or the population. You know, we're set at 5. And last year when we talked about expanding the board or having more members on it, we ran into a difficulty with the number that it would require legislation to do so from the state. And I wondered just how that number 5 is determined.
I have no idea, actually.
Frank, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is at the state statute level, but I know each of the commissioner districts is asked to seat a board member, and there's 5 districts. And I know if it went to the legislature, it was for at-large positions. You know, part of that was the impetus of that, to have youth members, or at least a path to youth members. So there's a path for people to be a non-voting observer, but not to be a formal board member.
Mm-hmm.
So is it? Are you saying, Matt, it's a kind of a county or district legislation that limits the size, or?
I don't know if it's fully aligned with commissioner districts, but I know the 5 aligns with our 5 commissioner districts. So I don't know if you go to the likes of a Hennepin that has 7 commissioners, if their library board has 7 members. But I know that of the 5, each one of the commissioner districts appoints one of those people.
Does that help your question?
Yeah,
We can get that information and bring it back to the next
that would
meeting.
be fine.
Okay.
Great.
I'm curious too. So that being said, can we get a motion to approve the library board policy changes?
I move to approve the library board changes 5.2, including the board job descriptions and the ethics for board members.
Right.
Second that motion.
And what's the word we use. Everybody want to say, who wants to vote? Say aye.
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 I,
That's for,
Aye.
So carried.
okay.
So approved. Item 5.3, acceptance of final disbursement from the Charles Dalkey Estate. So
Now,
this is
this
quite a
was on
hefty
your
sum.
agenda. This was on your agenda the last time. However,
Yeah.
when the motion was made, the motion was made just to accept the final disbursement and did not include the amount of money. And we got our minutes back from finance, who noted that we needed to have this specific amount of money in the minutes as a motion. So it's back here for you to vote on it again, but to include the fact that in the amount of $514,420.61.
Okay.
I
I-
move
I-
that, I move that we accept the final disbursement from the Charles Dalkey Estate in the amount of $514,420.61.
oh,
I
bless you.
I second.
I'll second that.
And all in favor of this, say aye.
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 So moving right along, do we need to stop on any of this for discussion? We're kind of moving pretty fast here. Unfinished and new business. Library legislative day. I'll let Heidi give a bit of a detail about that.
Okay. Normally, we would have, in normal times, we would have Library Legislative Day in either February or March, but of course, these are not normal times. It's the new abnormal times. So we have Library Legislative Week. However, we also do not have the legislature open for business to the general public because of COVID. So we're making appointments with our legislators who prefer, I was told, to do it via Teams meetings or Zoom. We have one legislator whose assistant has called us back and told us that they will be scheduling him for us with him for the 28th, but they don't know the exact time. And the others, we haven't heard back from. Susan put in her second call and email today. They just started back up again last week, so it's pretty tough. But as soon as I know when they're available, I will let you know to see however many of you would like to join us in a Teams meeting with each of the representatives. This is, every year is an important year, but this is a bonding year, and for us, that means money that would be available to build a new library, for example, the Chaska Library. There's also some money that is available for different projects, whether it's the RLBSS Regional Library Basic System support, or in some cases to help add to the monies in the capital accounts for more library building renovations or actual construction. So it's an important year for us. But I will get that information out to you and find out who would like to be in on the calls, and we'll get those scheduled. And by the way, Library Legislative Week is February 28th through March 3rd.
Is this the same for all the other libraries like across the state? So it's like everybody kind of doing a mad rush to get to their attention, or is this specifically for us? So February 28th to March 3rd.
No, it's for all libraries. The libraries, different groups come at different times. They're scheduled for different times of the year to meet with their legislators.
Okay. Next item on the list is a discussion topic, youth services revenue stream, and that's Paul.
Good evening. Is my audio okay?
Yes.
Yes,
Very good. Okay. Well, thank you for the opportunity to do a brief review of how we do our funding for our youth services library programs. And I'd first off say that whereas we don't have a separate line item in the library budget per se for programming, whether it's youth services or adult services, we can't go without pointing out that how much our own staff, which is funded by the county, are an integral part of our programming effort. So that's an unstated line in our, when we talk about programming budget, and it's inherent in everything else that we do. We do have several different funding streams, and it weaves together into a somewhat complex spreadsheet with some moving parts to it. And some of them are direct line, the income coming in and its stated purpose, and then the outgoing amount are a one-to-one relationship. And in a couple of places, there are combinations that come into play, and I'll talk about those in a second. The summer reading program is our largest single effort for programming with the youth services team, and it has several income streams for that. The Friends of the Library groups, all 6 of them, make a contribution, and it's at about this time of the year that we will send out ask letters to them. And basically, we've really asked them the same amount each year for quite a few years, and they're expecting the ask, and we're very thankful to the Friends groups for their contributions to the summer reading program. Altogether, the 6 Friends groups contribute $7,800 towards our summer reading program effort. The Library Foundation is another source of funding for the summer reading program, and for quite a few years now, we've made that request at the amount of $7,000. And that request is made to the foundation in October, and they approve it, and then it is the funds are then available for us in that next year. So right now we're working on, of course, the 2022 summer reading program, and we already have begun to make expenses as we're creating take-and-make kits and getting other supplies in and things ready for that. So foundation, again, about $7,000. Where it gets a little more complex, and that is, and very thankfully so, is from MELSA, our regional library system. In up through 2019, MELSA would award us a 3 or 4 different allocation amounts, and they were asking us to then use those funds for specific programming efforts. Some of those efforts include STEM programming, teen programming, year-round programming for literacy, and also the summer reading program. In 2020, this is where it starts to get a little more complex. In 2020, when the pandemic hit, is the MELSA Youth Services team made a recommendation to the MELSA board, which was approved, and that is, rather than targeting specific programming areas, the suggestion was that MELSA, the same amount that would be awarded to each library system, be done as one block, and then allow those library systems to use the funds in different areas as they best felt that they could. And part of that was simply a recognition that that first year of the pandemic, summer reading program planning was all discombobulated, and we were really just scrambling at the last minute to put in place all kinds of different types of programs because we couldn't do in-person things. So that carried again in 2020 with receiving a block amount, and we're expecting the same in 2021. We haven't received the final confirmation, but all indications are that the amount would be very, very similar to what it's been the past 2 years and will come to us as a single block. Right now, our youth services team is talking about actually going back to looking at the previous allocation categories and using them as some guidelines to help us with our planning effort informally. And so really is kind of an affirmation of where MELSA has been with making those allocations and giving us suggestions that STEM programming is important, that summer reading programming is important, that literacy programming throughout the year is, as well as teens. So our youth services team still has work to do on that planning, which leads me to then the really tricky part of the summer reading program planning, and this comes to the funding part of it, and that is we still are not clear as to what type of programming we're going to be able to do this summer. Will we it's hard to know. Are we going to be able to have performers in where we have 200 kids packed in tightly into a programming space, or are we going to have to put in place different protocols and parameters? And at what point do those parameters and guidelines then take away from the experience so much that maybe we just don't want to have performers? So we have a lot of the conversation to do on this. We have a lot to still hear from the county as to what the county is going to put in place for us as protocols for us to work with. And then that's going to tell us a lot about what we're going to do with performers, which in pre-pandemic was the single most expensive, highest amount of spending that we would do for our summer reading program were the performers. So lots of big questions there, no answers yet. And then the teen funding from the MELSA is we have a lot of energy right now, and Tricia may allude to it in a moment when she talks about the youth services report. And that is we have a lot of energy right now with some new staff to kind of re-engage with teen programming. And that has in the past traditionally been one of the other allocation areas for MELSA funding. We also receive legacy funding each year, and that has been used. Again, this is where it gets a little tricky because some of the legacy funding we will use for summer reading programs, events, and then some of it will be used throughout the year. Then we do apply to legacy and also receive funding for intergenerational programming. And that has overlap with what we're doing with straightforward youth services programming. And then we have grants that we go for. The foundation, we make another request for support for 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten initiative. This past year, we had an application and an award from the Dalkey grant for continuing work on our elementary STEM kits that were started a year ago, with a grant to the IEEE Foundation. And so we're continuing the work on that through an internal grant to the Dalkey grant. And then each branch, to the extent that they do local programming that is specific just for that branch, and sometimes we do that with performers and that will just be in an individual branch rather than throughout the system, is typically our friends groups have entertained requests for funding those very local initiatives. So a lot of income coming in from a variety of areas. One of the things I think that with the complexity, it gives us some flexibility. And then also, and we haven't experienced this, but I think with having that diversity of income is if one particular area were to have a problem with coming through with funding, say, for example, the Friends, if they weren't able to have had book sales this past year and they were really struggling, as we still would have had a lot of support in other areas. Of course, that didn't happen. We did have great book sales last year, and so the friends, I expect, are going to approve our requests again this year. So that's a very quick summary of youth services funding, sort of a companion conversation to, if you remember, the board meeting in July, when Jody and I did a much longer presentation about how the program planning is actually done and what the programs themselves look like. So thank you for the opportunity, and I obviously will entertain any questions or comments that you have about our funding initiatives, and particularly about the for programming.
I do have a question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
Well, I was just gonna, Paul, are you aware if the Friends or the foundation has explored diversifying their revenue streams? Because it seems like all their money comes from book sales. I don't anticipate that being the same way in 10 years. Have you seen any shift away from them generating their revenues in different ways?
Okay, the foundation I wouldn't be able to speak to. Maybe Gwen or Heidi might want to tackle that one. I think for all three of us branch managers, I think that is a good conversation for us to be having with our friends groups. The Waconia Friends actually did this past year apply to a local foundation in Waconia and received a very significant donation or grant, and that is, will this next year be used for summer reading program, the Your Lucky Day collection, and a couple other literacy initiatives at the local level in Waconia. So they have explored that. I don't know if it was so much because they see the handwriting on the wall that book sale income is going to go down, as much as it was just a great opportunity, and that worked out. And we expect that may be a multi-year request that they're going to be making. But good point. I think for Patrick, Jody, and I to all take back to our friends groups.
Yeah, Matt, what I would tell you about the Victoria Friends group is they hit very hard on Library Giving Day, which is April 8th. They do matches in the community. They did a donation dish at like a Lions Club fish fry. So they also went out and got some local businesses. So that's what the Victoria Friends is doing, because they just had their first book sale. The Chanhassen Friends, one of the things they do every year is they do a letter basically just asking people to donate money or become members. So this year also we had some donations in memory of people. So we took in, I think, as much money outside of book sales as we did in book sales from donations and memberships.
Yeah, and the foundation itself, Matt, does ask letters, an annual ask letter to the public, the summer reading program ask letter, and then a non-event event, which is what we learned to do from the St. Paul Pioneer, or St. Paul Foundation. As well, we've held foundation awareness events, including wine tastings and wine pairings at local wineries and local businesses that do sell wine. They were going to do a mystery play, so hors d'oeuvres and light beverages, and then have a mystery play that people could buy their tickets and they'd get so many beverages and they would be involved in this mystery play. And of course, COVID shut that down. So they're trying to do things that nobody else is doing.
And I would piggyback on that, Heidi, and just an affirmation, a reminder that the Waconia Lions Group have given a multi-year, made a promise for a multi-year donation for the summer reading program that goes into the, helps feed, if you will, the Library Foundation donation that goes into the summer reading program. And that was in memory of Mr. Yetzer.
Yeah.
I think there's a question by Jim. You have your hand raised.
I happen to be the co-president of the Chaska Friends. We have no plans to go to any other revenue sources, but we have been hit fairly hard. Not being able, we typically have 2 book sales a year. Last year we had only 1. Our February one this year has been canceled because our volunteers did not want to have an indoor book sale in the library since we could not require people to wear masks. So we are losing revenue. We may consider having another one in the spring, which we can have outdoors, but the county's policy on masks is inhibiting us right now from having some of our sales.
Mhm.
The only question I had was, given the fact that there's inflation going on, how is that going to impact the programs?
I'm sorry, the audio was scrambled. If you
So
could
the
repeat
question
it.
I have is, with the inflation going on right now, things getting more expensive, how is that?
Thank
How do you see that impacting your program? And will there be enough funding for what you currently have planned for 2022?
Sure. There's no doubt that, that some of the supply costs are going to be up. And so far, the indication from the performers that we've had initial conversations with, as well as organizations like Artistry and things.
Mhm.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Jody, because you also have a hand in planning this for adult services. But I don't think that I've seen an increase in the proposed cost of events from either performers or organizations. Have you?
Not a noticeable change.
Yeah.
I mean, it's remaining pretty much steady at the moment. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And then things like the incentive prizes that we purchased from Barnes and Noble, those, of course, a $15 gift card is a $15 gift card.
Right.
I mean, I'm not trying to be a wise guy, but I mean, on the back end of it is the recipient may not, their incentive price may not go quite as far, but that amount is a steady one. So the number of gift cards we're going to give away will likely remain constant.
Okay.
And the books that we purchase that are a part of the incentive giveaways for doing activities, reading activities, because we reward reading with reading, right? That's
Right.
one of our principles, if you will. Is I don't know that we've really seen a big bump up on the prices through Scholastic yet, but something that we'll watch for as we get deeper into the spending through the year.
Right.
So, question. Again, thank you for the opportunity to run through this with you. And of course, throughout the year, please let me know if you have questions or observations or concerns about youth programming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. It was good.
That was a good update. The next item on the agenda is 6.3, future potential discussion topics. What we table is for April to be an adult services revenue stream discussion, a collection appropriation on May, and programming policy reviews and adoption in the April 2022 board meeting. So that's the only thing I have. I mean, does anybody want to add to these items? Oh, and the lessons learned from the pandemic. Well, that's going to be an interesting one. If there are nothing, I'm going to move on to the administrative reports. And I think in here we have Trish to give us an update on the team update on youth services. Trish, are you on? I think you're on mute. Oh, there you go.
Yep, I am here. Welcome. Hello, everyone. I am happy to be able to report about some of the things we're doing with the youth services team this past year. It's been a very busy year, even though we had the pandemic, of course, going and had some difficulty with the buildings being closed and stuff. In your packet, you should have a copy of the report. And I'm just going to highlight some various things on here, but I'm also going to tell you some exciting things that are coming down the road. So I'm not going to read the report to you because I know you're all great readers. You love the library. Basically, our goals for this year were really to look at enhancing literacy services in the county and developing programs that meet the needs of the county residents and looking at cultural needs, technological needs, and civic engagement, and reaching out to underserved populations. And even though our programs were suppressed, the number of programs by the pandemic, we were still able to offer 519 programs in the children's department and 113 in the teen area. And that's with our buildings closed for like basically half the year. We had over 44,000 participants that we were able to track either virtually or in person with the children's program. And so that's pretty exciting in terms of activity, even though we were closed. We had a lot of virtual programs going on. Our librarians really shifted gears and went heavily into virtual, did story times, book clubs, all kinds of things virtually to continue to serve our students, children, and teens and little ones in the community, which was really exciting. We took to platforms like Facebook and YouTube and all kinds of things. We kind of had to pivot as we went along because sometimes things started to work well, like Facebook portal, and then they didn't work at all. So we had to shift gears. We tried out some iPad minis. We tried out some regular iPads, just really learning about technology and how to interact with our public through some of our social media platforms. And we had wonderful support through working with our adult services team and Susan Bernstein, who really works with the social media for Carver County. So it's been a great journey. We've recognized the value of our virtual programming and continue it, even though we have buildings open and we're doing in-person story time now. We still have Monday Fun Day, which we have virtual things going on for young people, which may be a story time, maybe a performer like music or something exciting. So we still have that component going on. And it was something we'd always thought about jumping into before the pandemic. And then, whoa, the pandemic came and we had to dive right in without our little swimmies on or anything on our arms and just really figure out how to do it on the run. As Paul alluded to, we had some exciting STEM things happen over this past year. Kristen Schneider, one of our youth services librarians, wrote a grant, and we all worked on developing some STEM kits that are in the libraries for patrons to check out. They've been very, very popular, so popular, they have not hit the shelf yet in the library. They have had whole lists since we put them into the catalog. There has been whole lists, just people waiting to check them out over and over. And we're really finding them, they're used by, our homeschool families. They're used by families that just want to dig deep into a STEM type topic. These are for elementary students to check out. So it's really exciting. Kristen followed up and wrote a Dalkey grant and was awarded one. So in 2022, we will add a few more of these kits to the mix. We'll take the current kit concept and just buy a few more and make a few more so that we can keep them rolling out, because when you're waiting half a year to get it, you may forget what you even ordered. If it's me, I would. But the kids are still really excited about them. The other day when I was looking at the kit I developed, which was the one on dinosaurs, there was 18 kids waiting to get that kit. So quite exciting. And it keeps our focus on some of those new initiatives around STEM for our elementary students. With our summer reading program, we also showed an increase in participation over 2020 and 21, if that makes any sense, which makes total sense because the pandemic happened and the libraries were closed and we really struggled. We were doing all of our virtual programming, but in terms of that in-person hand selling of the program in which they can earn reading rewards and check off little things and do little activities. Without having in-person programming, we could really see that in our numbers. We saw a dip in 2020, and then that started coming out very nicely. And once we reopened our doors in 2021, so you really see that influence. Also saw it with our 1,000 Books program. When I was looking at the data in a big time way the other day, last week or so, during 2020, when our doors were totally closed and we weren't having those in-person conversations with families and really being able to talk to them about the value of the program, we saw a dip, and now the numbers are climbing back up. So that's very exciting. One of the things that we're really super proud of that the team's been working hard on, and it's come from both the tech side, our library tech people, and also from very dedicated librarians and branch managers, is the virtual library card. They launched a virtual library card program in the Waconia schools and have been kind of testing it out. Lets kids access library resources using connection to their student ID and being able to really get at all those databases and all the things. You know, when we're in a pandemic and they can't reach the shelf, they can get on a database and find the information they need. It's awesome. Or they can check out books virtually as well. You know, listen to audiobooks or read ebooks. So we've been kicking that off with the schools in Waconia, and it's been going super well. And now we're at the point where we're looking at what happens next in terms of other schools within Carver County and how do we support bringing them on board. So virtual library card has been super awesome. The other thing we've been working on, which was part of our goals, is the bookings module. And this is kind of a behind the scenes thing. So you probably won't see it when you look at the library system in any way, unless you're visiting us in person and looking at the back end. But we have a lot of things that move around, like story walks. If you've ever seen a story walk out in a park with the kiddos, or some of these STEM kits that we talk about, not the ones that kids check out, but other ones we use in the library, we need ways to move those pieces between our staff. And so we've been working with our new CRC Dynex program and developing back-end type support for this booking module. It lets people check out, hey, I want that story walk over in Norwood. Please send it to me, and tells the system to send it to them. So we made great progress on that. One of the things Paul alluded to is our teen interest group, or our teen group, they call themselves TIG, is really embracing jumping in. We have a lot of people passionate about working with the teens. They've started D&D clubs, Dungeons and Dragons, for those of you who don't know what D&D is. They've looked at book clubs. They've looked at things called teen flat packs, which are like our little take and make for teens that they get to take home and work on. But one of the things they're looking at is we weren't able to do much with our deposit collection goal. But this coming year, they're trying to look at creating a deposit collections that could rotate around and be in areas to look at kind of tough topics for teens. You know, teens may be thinking about, ooh, what do I do about relationships or bullying or something about development or identity? And how can we support them that through resources like books and things in the library, and putting them in places where teens are going to frequent so they don't feel uncomfortable going, you know, and finding that book that they need to help in terms of their self-development in front of mom or dad. You know, they're totally appropriate teen materials reviewed by our teen librarians and collection people. But it might be something that, you know, we could place it in a spot, in a collections, or in a location where teens frequent, where they'd feel very comfortable checking out or accessing that material. One of the other things that we had as a goal was looking at Chaska Summer Food Program and partnerships to get food access out to the community. And because things all changed with the schools, which we all know, that didn't happen either. But we had this very exciting thing happen. We have a partnership with a place called Every Meal. I am so psyched about it, where we have food bags in the libraries now. And we don't put them, you know, right next to the desk where people are going to maybe have, you know, oh, is that for me? I shouldn't take it in front of other people, kind of thing. They're sitting in our entryways or in special spots where families can anonymously take food when they need it. And it's been just a fabulous program to have that available for families. We've also really wanted to focus on literacy and looking at our K through third grade students, and really looking at how to implement a program to support that. We've looked at doing things with our diverse book collections. We did a diversity audit with our easy readers, which are those beginning books, and really looked at how the collection matches and really reflects our changing community. And we've now wanted to kind of expand that further into other elements of the collection around youth, but it's not just about the diversity aspect. It's also finding ways to support that early literacy element through other concepts in addition to the books. Like we piloted at Waconia, actually, a Read, Stay, Play concept where they focus on STEM and early literacy and books that support early literacy for kind of the 0 to 5 crowd, where they come in, get to play with things, and then also do some reading with their caregiver. And I know I'm running out of time here. I just wanted to touch on a couple things. We're really looking and forward in 2022. Like I said, the TIG group is doing some wonderful things with teens. Our 1,000 books, we're looking at beefing up and revamping and getting, new passion and energy going there, because now we're back in person to some extent. And then continuing to support the virtual elements, which our youth services staff have jumped behind and been fabulous in working on the youth services pieces in virtual environments and social media. So again, there's a lot more detail in the report here, way more than I could cover in 10 minutes. I'm just over 10 minutes, I know. So if you have any questions, you can ask me, or you can definitely read the report. Thank you.
Nice job.
I'm impressed.
Very
That's
great.
a lot. Does anybody have any questions? Trish?
Hi, Francine.
I'm really impressed that you actually put the food bank thing in the library. I think that's a great idea. Sometimes people don't want to go everywhere, but they're so open there and they need the food, and that's just very convenient for them to get to it. I think that's good. I like that part of it. And I think Paul is going to address that, but I think Matt wanted if you could take a picture of the STEM kits for him. I think he's probably going to use it in an article, maybe, Matt?
And if I forgot to say one thing, if you look at your little report, there's a picture of a guest reader we had.
I noticed that.
In your multicolored suit, jacket.
Exactly.
I thought the flashing, at first I thought it was a light, and then I realized that it was a head.
Yeah, they kept me away from the children of Chaska.
Thanks, Trish.
Thank you.
Moving on. Budget updates, from exciting stuff to numbers. And we'll get that for Heidi.
Okay. Our budget in our IFS report that follows still has not been reconciled with a number of things, including our prepays, and we do have now the 2021 cuts that were made to our general budget, so those show, but our prepays have not been reconciled, nor have our credit card expenditures, so it's hard to see that right now. Susan and I are working on, and Bob are working on the Cat 3 proposal. Category 3, monies come in from MELSA at the very end of the year. We never quite know what we're going to get, if we are going to get anything, but we did get some, so we want to create a proposal that would allow us to spend that money rather than it going back to MELSA. And we're also going through the rollover reconciliation, those items that we had partway on going on to purchase, but whether they were in the contract portal and needed other questions answered, or there was a shipping delay and so on. As long as we can prove that, so finance can prove it to the auditors, then we can keep that money to use in what we call a rollover account. So basically that's what we're doing. We're hoping by March we'll be able to show you exactly where we're at that point in time. But right now we don't have that with us. Any questions about that? Otherwise, I'll turn it back to you, Charles.
Thank you. And next item is back to you, Heidi. It's the library director's report.
And the director's report stands as enclosed, but I do want to note 3 items to you. And the first one I'm actually going to call on Jody to talk about, and it has to do with our connections with Health and Human Services. Jody?
Thank you, Heidi. So State Library Services is starting kind of a 2-piece initiative to help strengthen and build partnerships more deeply between libraries and between the career force centers that are located throughout the state of Minnesota. And as you may know, we have our very own career force here in Chaska, which falls under the umbrella of Health and Human Services. And I've been very fortunate for our adult services team to be already working on our partnership with Career Force the last couple of years, and being able to see some great things coming out of that partnership. Most recently, we've been working on adding additional hotspots through ARPA funds that were given to HHS through the county. And so through partnership, we're going to be cataloging those and making those available to patrons, and particularly targeting our career force patrons. So again, we have a great start to our relationship, but we're excited to hear that State Library Services wants to take it a little bit further. So one of the things that they're doing is offering a packet, essentially, that's going to be called Career Force Center. And I think, I haven't seen a visual of it, but I think essentially it will be, a display holder that will be filled with all different kinds of pamphlets and information and resources pertaining to what Career Force can do for patrons and can offer to them. So to help us to have, if we so choose, one in each of our branches, so that we can really highlight that partnership and really try to cross promote between our 2 departments, which is fantastic. We certainly see patrons that are seeking that information, and so to be able to connect them with that more easily is wonderful. So that's in the works from State Library Services. The second part is State Library Services is going to be starting some conversations virtually between libraries and Career Force. And so tomorrow we are having our very first conversation that is actually going to highlight what Hennepin and Carver County libraries and our career forces are already doing. And so we're going to be a part of that conversation tomorrow. Looking forward to that. I'll give you an update next month, perhaps, about what that looks like. But I think it's just a really great thing so that we can keep a pulse on what our patrons, what the career force clientele is needing, what they're looking for, and how we can help each other and build and strengthen that partnership even further.
Okay, and I said we had 3 things for my report that I wanted to emphasize, that being the connections with HHS being one. Secondly, I want to thank you, board members, not only for the work you do every day as advocates, but also for letting us know you are our internal customers as well as others, letting us know what you needed to be better board members. And one of the things that you needed was to be able to meet in person, which we'll be able to do starting in April again, which will be a great thing. Being able to have shorter special reports, whether it's from the individual libraries or individual teams. So we're going to start working on that. And then the last thing on my report I want to tell you about also has to do with customer service. 2 weeks ago, I was in McIntoons and a lady came running down the aisleway towards me and calling me the library lady. And it's only in Waukoni that would happen. But she told me how much it had meant to her to have the library in her life. And it just made me realize again and again what our staff does to create that kind of environment. It doesn't matter which library you're at. They create that environment of people feeling welcome. of being important. So that is my report. You'll see other things within the report as well, but I'll give it back to Charles.
Thank you, Heidi. The last item I have on 7.4 is Division Director update. And it has Nick
He did
Sotavi
not
here,
leave
but
an
I don't
update.
see him online. Yeah, so maybe we'll wait for him the next time around. So that concludes the administrative report. So there are no other items here. We can move on to item 8, which is trustee and commissioner reports. And we'll have the Chanhassen Victoria one first.
Hey all,
Hi.
I only have two things today that were in my report. One is just a really good example, which is on the front page, even though this took place in back in November, the pajama story time, that people still remember it and are still talking about it. So we have another one planned. So, often I'll come here, all of us will come here and say, here's something we did. And it's rare that still months later we're hearing about it. So that's really cool. There's some stuff on adult reads, which I know Jody's going to go into. But then the last thing, I guess I'm just in a cuteness mode, is on page 6 of my report, is this couple that came in with their kids and packed up a suitcase full of books. And I put that there not just because it's a cute picture, but one of the things we're seeing is our door count remains down. I just want to be honest with people. There's just not as many people walking in the building as there were 2 years ago pre-COVID. But those who are coming in, we're seeing a lot more people checking out a lot more books. So circulation and door count normally kind of go hand in hand, but that's not happening right now, is that our circ remains strong while our door count remains low. So that's a couple of things I wanted to talk about.
Thanks, Patrick. And we have the Chaska Library. Jody.
Thank you. Hello again. So I have included quite a few photos and great stories this month. So just a couple of highlights. One thing that we did over the last few weeks was kind of update a new display space by where the elevator is in Chaska Library. And at first we just had a table there, but then we found a bookcase back in a corner that we moved up. So thanks to county facilities for helping us with that. But we were able to then highlight some of the new adult Spanish materials there. And it has just been wonderful to highlight those, some great stories and interactions with staff. We certainly have we have both juvenile and adult Spanish materials, but it was really nice to see those new materials really get highlighted in that space. So we're excited about that. Great opportunity that just kind of came on board from City of Chaska. We have some wonderful artwork that students at La Academia did for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And so we have that hanging in our children's area now, and I have a picture of it there. And so we did a book display for Black History Month with that. And because of this connection that we made, I think we're going to get some additional artwork to change out in a couple months. So we're really excited about that. It was like meant to be, just in that perfect space. So, oh gosh. And then just, there's a really big cute picture. See, we're all about the cuteness tonight, but the STEM kit success. And we just got a great picture and story about the use of one of those STEM kits that Trisha was talking about. So we love hearing directly, from our patrons and our community members when they have that great experience with the work that we're doing. And I know the staff just takes such great pride that what they're doing is making a difference for those families, for those community members. So thank you.
Got a silly question. What are teen flat pack?
Oh, sure. Those are, and Trisha talked very briefly. So our teen interest group has been developing these teen flat packs, which are essentially a little take and make kit. And every month they've been featuring a different activity So the one that you see here was, it's a little paper envelope that comes with all the directions and materials to make a fold a 5-point star. This month, I think there's actually an embroidery flat pack, sorry. And so just kind of, and we have them out available in our teen section, so teens can stop in and take one as they would like to.
Sort of kinesthetic stuff. Yeah.
Any other questions I can answer?
No.
I'll work on my tongue twisters there next time.
And next area is Norwood Young America.
Along with Watertown and Waconia.
And what I was going to say that.
Yeah, we
I was not sure whether you're going to keep them separate or you're going to put it all together. Yep. Go ahead.
Yep. So teen flat pack 3 times fast, right, Jody? Yeah. So that's great. Just a follow up, I did send to you, Matt, some images of the STEM kits. You should have that in your inbox. A little follow up. I think it was mentioned during the discussion that with the meals program, that where we've had the packages for people to be able to take, is I've been continuing conversations with that organization and exploring ways in which the library may be able to be go beyond just the winter months, and may not be in the spring, maybe it'll be the summertime. So we're working with Caitlin from county and some other people on that. So we'll continue to find a way where we can support organizations like that. This evening, in about 25 minutes, there is going to be, we have an author program tonight, right, Jody? And what is that at 6:30?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
I think Brian Freeman is our author this evening. Mm-hmm.
Oh, great author. Love his work. Tonight, also, we didn't promote this a lot because we didn't want to steal the thunder away from the Brian Freeman author event. But well after the time that event was planned, we were contacted by a librarian in the Watertown, Massachusetts Public Library. And they put together a program which is going to happen tonight at 6 o'clock. So now 24 minutes from now. And it's called Watertown USA Local History Summit. And there will be librarians and representatives, I think, from historical groups from 6 different Watertown towns around the United States, if you will. There's one right in South Dakota. There's one in Connecticut, I know, because I used to go shopping at the meat market there when I lived in Watertown. And there's one in Massachusetts, and there are a couple others around the United States. So each one is going to do a little bit of local history, a little bit of local culture, things like that. Just a very unique program opportunity. So Bridget Stewart, our adult services librarian, is going to be presenting at that event that, again, is at 6 o'clock tonight. And it's a Zoom event. We're hoping that will actually be recorded, and then we'll be able to share that later on as well. And then Tricia, are you still here? I think maybe she dropped off. I'm going to rat her out in a wonderful way, as well as other youth services staff. So through MELSA, our staff have had an opportunity to attend sign language training, specifically designed for how that can be used in youth services programming, particularly story times. And Tricia wrote me this synopsis this afternoon. She said, I may have shared, I have a woman who comes to the Norwood Young America Storytime who was raised in a deaf and hard of hearing household. She has been really helpful with signing and excited that it is a part of our story time now. So I'll hit the pause button here. Trisha's been attending this training, and she's integrating that into her story times. So she goes on to describe, today her deaf brother and his child and her mom, so that's grandma, also attended. So we had a full group of signers. There were several people signing all during the story time. It was wonderful. I led signing for a new song for children, The More We Get Together. And I will, Tricia, when she does the Monday Fun Day program next Monday evening, I think is when she's scheduled again to be the presenter. She'll be signing during that virtual story time next week. So if you want to see it, how that's incorporated into story times, you can take a look at that. I think it's next Monday night that she'll be on. So a great use of our training, a great example of where staff have been attending training and then incorporating what they're learning into the frontline services. Thank you.
Thank you. That was really good. Next on is MELSA updates. Matt, you're up.
Yeah, Paul, thanks for that. That ASL in that connection, to hear that is great. And I think that county's trying to elevate monthly stories. So that might be one to elevate as well, how we're learning and innovating. And we've heard so much good stuff today. I'll keep my stuff short. One, to affirm with Jody with the La Academia stuff. My daughter happens to go to La Academia. We were at the MLK breakfast, and I saw that artwork in Cantor. I forget his name. Mr. Cantor's team put that together, and there's so much pride in the kids preparing each one of those panels, because I think it was something like 40 panels of individuals came together to create a mural, and that was cool and touching, and right down the street. So cool partnership there. As far as MELSA goes, when Library Day comes up, it's not lost on some of these legislators that it's an election year. So don't be afraid when you share your comments to share that. Libraries are wildly popular and historically underfunded. So feel free to use that. Today, Heidi, myself, Patrick, and a handful of others had convened a meeting with the city of Victoria to dream about what library might look like in the future as they continue to grow their need for another library or a different space. So we had a preliminary conversation that ranged from what would it look like if we were to do something connected to a school, which was perspectives that were shared were that probably isn't the greatest ideas for different reasons. Or what about next to a community center or whatever? And I think that just having those conversations, framing what's possible within library before it becomes an emergency, puts it on the radar for us to plan for those things. So very productive conversation. Also the notion of having housing with it. And then somewhat MELSA related, somewhat not, but Jake, who's been Heidi's peer in Scott County, was recently named to be the library director in Ramsey. So I think it's kind of cool when there's partnership in this local area and good relationships. He's going to move over to Ramsey, which is somewhat more sizable than where we're at, but a good friend and a good partner for us. And so he's moved over there. And then specific to MELSA, I was renamed to the personnel committee. And there's been a little bit of turnover at MELSA, but to get focused on the people throughout this pandemic and have those relationships with the existing folks and new folks. We have a great reputation at MELSA, largely on the back of Heidi and her interactions, but I'm happy to be part of that as well. So that's my update.
Thanks, Matt. And lastly, I guess it's new for Ellen. You just got that role recently, Library Foundation of Carver County updates.
Okay, thank you. Can everybody hear me? Am I good? Okay, I don't know. Can you see me? Can't see me though. Okay. Well, I'm going to move forward here. I have 4 things to say. And number 1 is an item that is put in the packet today. It's the Norwood Young America and monthly newsletter put out by the city, especially spearheaded and directed by Mayor Carol Lagergren, who should be invited to one of the next meetings here. She's an advocate of the library. But this particular newsletter is read. It's sent out to about 3,800 people in the community, and it's read by everybody. It's read more intently than the regular newspapers that are coming around. And it's important because the community is growing. As you know, the 212 corridor is coming out. More people are moving into the community. There's a new housing development that's just starting up right now. And the school is building. A referendum has just been passed, and it's looking to the future to house and have more students. So that's a really big plus, this news. And I want to thank you, Paul, for sending that information to her. The second thing is a veterans program. I'm a veteran. I'm in the VFW and the American Legion. And in Carver County, there's a Carver County Vets Council, which is going to have the second annual event in August 17th. And the topic is going to be suicide awareness. Suicide is a high incidence, especially among vets, but it's constant or growing. I don't know. It's among us all. We know people. I have a neighbor who's involved. I'm on the Fort Snelling National Cemetery Honor Guard. And about a month ago, one of the guys on the bus when we were going from one shelter to another to give honors was all very, very distressed. Joe, his brother had just committed suicide. And so we did a prayer for him and designed a special prayer for his brother's funeral and for the honor ceremony. But my point is that there's a lot of suicide out there. And, over the years, I just incidentally network and things are really coming into fruition. Years ago, 2002, I took a 2-week Army suicide training course. And the director, Glenn Bloomstrom, is now living in Minnesota, who is managing a program. And he's going to come in for this August program and give a presentation for an hour. There's going to be a dinner. I'm hoping to bring in a testimony of somebody who experienced a family suicide. And then Glenn's going to give the presentation. I don't know if you know a man, there's a cameraman from WCCO. His name is Tom Avilis. And he was actually shot by a rubber bullet during the Floyd the Floyd execution, I guess you might call it. But anyway, Tom Avilis is going to come out for this August event and film it. And so I'm going to work with the library system here to promote that as some kind of adult program. I'm not quite sure how to go with that, but there's energy. And the third thing I wanted to mention, and this is really a small program right now, but there is a program in the court system in Carver County called the Vets Court. It's specific. I don't think there's any other, there might be another court system like this, but the court system here in Carver County sees so much recidivism in the county vets who get incarcerated for especially alcoholism, and they just repeat and go back and back into the system. So there's a mentoring program, and I've signed up for this mentoring program, and I'm going to be able to mentor one of these individuals. And as I look at my background, all the things I've done in my lifetime, I have some credentials to chat with this individual that I'm going to be working with. The Library Foundation is new for me, and I'm going to jump start on it. I'm going to keep moving on it. So those are the 4 things. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Alan.
You're welcome.
just so to on your, I think your third point. So who would you engage with on that program for the adult program, if you're looking at doing it within the library system?
Jody
Okay.
would be the person.
Yeah, this concept of suicide, it's I can see that a lot, and it's a going concern.
Yeah, it's Jody. Somehow I'll network with you, give you a call, have a one-on-one, and you can tell me what we need to do and what kind of piano you have.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next item, I guess correspondence, additional information. I don't see any. Or Heidi, would you want to add anything to that?
Nothing to add to that. It's there for
Okay.
you to look at home.
Okay. And lastly, is the media pack. You can see there's a lot of articles. I became more conscientious of there's an article. Usually on the Chaska Herald, I see Jody putting out an article here and there, and I would read it because, hey, I know her. Oh, hey, it's the library. so it's a good read. Suggest that you read it if you have not. Aside from that, that's all we have. Anyone have anything else to want to add? If not, we can have a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
And we have a second.
Second,
And everyone who agrees, say aye.
All in favor, say aye.
All in favor, say aye. I need to remember that phrase. All
Aye.
in favor, say aye.
aye.
And we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Well,
See you next time.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you.
Bye.